Excellency Ambassador Dr. Arikana Chikombarikwa with this powerful team that is joining us on this third edition on the ADDI and our 1 million campaign for 2021. So as you can see, while we're warming up and our beautiful guest is just sitting here with us, we're still waiting for Her Excellency, who has been on a wonderful meeting this afternoon. I would like to know what she has been doing around. So, but sitting here with me, we have Dr. Lakeisha Harrison, who is the ADDI Hire Director. And we also have Dr. Benson Kasua, who is the ADDI Trade and Investment Director. So please help me welcome the ADDI team IA. And I think we're going to have a very exciting session today. I mean, when you see the Director of Investment here and Trade, so we should be ready to ask a lot. What is the ADDI working towards, particularly in terms of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area? And when we also see the Director of Trade and Investment here with us, then we should be thinking about our monies and where to put our monies, just like the ADDI's motto has been, let's put our monies where our mouth is. So we should stop talking and do something. We should invest in the future of Africa and our children and the legacy. So ADDI, all of us know it so well. I mean, like you can just sleep and dream ADDI because that's the most powerful structure that is uniting the diaspora together. And I'll borrow the words of Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Arikana, who's always like, you know, at ADDI, we make it better. We just make your systems, your structures, keep your money, anything that you want to do with your platforms, you present it to the ADDI, and the ADDI makes it better. So yes, we're going to hold on this conversation again while we're waiting on Her Excellency to join us on the stream. I would like to talk to Dr. Lakeisha a little bit. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. It is wonderful to be here, or afternoon, depending on what time zone you're joining us from.
Thank you. And how has your schedule been like? I know to put hands on you, particularly when it has to do with the ADDI, it's not just easy. What have you been hanging around doing?
ADDI is quite busy. We're quite active. And as you know, we launched formally in 2020. And ever since then, the response has just been absolutely overwhelming. And the organization has been growing by leaps and bounds with over 8,000 or 10,000 people registered on the website. And every time we launch a new initiative, we garner hundreds of people who join us, if not thousands. Single broadcast can near 1,000 participants joining us. So it's been quite busy. Her Excellency is tireless. I really don't know how she does it, but she seems to be everywhere at the same time. I guess that's the benefit of us being online in this virtual world. You can be everywhere at the same time because you don't have to fly or travel. But we're just very thankful for the overwhelming response that we have seen from people throughout the world to what ADDI is doing and what we are hoping to accomplish.
Okay, my technical Tata is giving me some indications that Her Excellency is there, and so we would just like to usher her into the audience. So, good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm trying to get my phone to sit properly because the other way is telling me that it's not sitting. Okay. I hope I'm okay.
You're very, very okay. Yes. All right. Now you put it in the session in which we can see her. I learned that you're just leaving the webinar, and each time
Yeah.
that you come on African Daily, even just to say hello, your voice is already so choppy. So what was going on there?
Today we had a really exciting program. What we are trying to do is to introduce diaspora to what other diaspora are doing. Lots of interesting ideas. So today we were introducing the ADDI coin and the blockchain related to that coin, as well as a cybersecurity program, training program that we are also launching, Adopt in African Youth, where we are hoping we negotiated for $1,000. It's normally a $7,000 program. If you can donate $1,000 to ADDI, we can make sure that you can sponsor a youth for cybersecurity training for 3 months. And by the end of it, they will be able to get a job in whatever country they reside in, because there's a humongous shortage. I was shocked with the statistic that Nigeria only has 1,800 cybersecurity trained experts, that whole big country. And so there's a huge need. And so that's what we are doing today. It was introducing the cryptocurrency and cybersecurity training.
Thank you very much, Mother. Can you just tell our audience a little bit about the cryptocurrency?
I know nothing.
I know. Dr. Benson is just laughing because he was like, if he contemplated an
Because you said
investment.
cryptocurrency and blockchain, and you're just throwing me into la la land. It's cyberspace. I have no idea. So really, please don't ask me that question. They keep
All right,
talking about
I know,
this
I was
wallet,
just,
and I'm like, oh, where's the wallet?
yes. Anyways, I mean, these things are keeping you young and putting you in the train. So, High Excellency Dr. Ambassador Dr. Arikana, we would like you to open this edition today and inform our audience on what is it that we want to learn and what is it that you'll be educating you and your team and your staff. What do you have for us today?
Thank you so much, my dear daughter. I so appreciate you and all the work that you are doing to empower us Africans and keeping us reminded as to what role we need to play in order to further our agenda, not only as Africans in the diaspora, and by Africans in the diaspora, I'm referring to all people of African descent, because we're Africans, as Africans in the diaspora, as well as Africans on the continent. And so we appreciate you and we honor you. You are a true child of Africa. Keep up the great work. Today, I brought with me our Director for Trade and Investment. This is a crucial sector for ADDI, particularly in the environment of the African Continental Free Trade Area. It is a segment, it is a sector that we really needed to make sure that people can understand what is going on in Africa. The diaspora really have no clue as what's happening in Africa.
Yeah.
So with us today, we have Benson Kaswer, who is also the chairman for the African Chamber of Commerce in Texas, based in Dallas. He comes with a wealth of experience in trade issues, and of course, very well connected in East Africa in particular. And as ADDI, we're blessed that Brother Benson has stood up and is leading us and helping us go through and understand the process of the African Continental Free Trade Area, but more importantly, paving the way and bringing products and opportunities to invest in Africa to the African diaspora. Also with me today, we have Professor Harrison. Professor Harrison, I'm going to let her tell you all about her qualifications. She is just truly an incredible sister. I will let her tell you all about it. I think I look at somebody like Professor Harrison, and as a Black woman, I sit back and I'm filled with warmth and appreciation for what we can do as Black people if we set our minds to it. She's a very accomplished professor. I first met her when she invited me to be a guest speaker in one of her classes at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And so she has also stood up and has agreed to lead our educational sector. She's not only an educator, a professor, she has another degree in religious studies. She's a lawyer by training. Like I said, I will let her tell you all about it. As ADDI, we are truly blessed to someone as accomplished as she is to lead us and lead our educational sector. As you all know, that we have been miseducated for centuries. We
Mhm.
need to undo the miseducation of the African, the miseducation of Black people. And we couldn't have found a better person to lead us on this path to completely undo the textbooks that we have today, the educational system that we have today. We couldn't have found a better person than Professor Harrison. So that's why we are here today, to continue the conversation at your invitation to talk about ADDI and what ails us as a people and what we need to do to take care of these ailments. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so very much, Her Excellency, for your tireless effort. I mean, I don't know how you manage it. I can only know that all the 4 million ancestors that we have are all with you. Because I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to see what you're through, but you're powerful. You're always on these meetings. I watch you, I follow you everywhere in the audience, and sometimes I really am afraid. I say, Mother, if we don't have you, we don't know what is going to become of us. So, do you also just find time and take some rest?
Well, fortunately for me, I think being a medical doctor really prepared me for what I'm doing now. Time has
Mhm.
nothing to do with being a doctor. People don't say, oh, I'll get sick between 8 and 5. People get sick 24/7. They get sick from anywhere in the world. And so I'm so accustomed to always be ready to deal with, I guess you could say, high level thinking issues. There was no time for me to really be relaxed as a medical doctor because the phone could ring and it's one of your patients in an emergency room in Australia. And you're supposed to be up and be able to converse with that other doctor thousands of miles away and give them good information and advice on how to help your patient. So for over 30 years, I did not have the privilege of relaxing in my daily life. But what it did was it taught me how to function at a high level, at all times, with never a downtime. If I'm called for to be a mother, I'm there as a mother. If I'm called there to be the caretaker for a family member, I'm there. If I'm called to be the doctor, I'm there. So you were able to just traverse the spectrum of functioning from high level to low level, and that's just the way I've lived my life the past 30 years or so. So what I'm doing now, yes, when I step back and I look at it, it sounds like it's busy, but compared to the life that I've lived, this is really nothing. I'm used to working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That has been the life that I've lived. So I'm grateful that being a medical doctor prepared me for the work ahead, because we do have work to be done. Things have got to change. Our circumstances of Black people have got to change. And that calls for sacrifice. Sacrifice where we can't talk about time. We are suffering 24/7. We need to address these issues 24/7. Diaspora are in every time zone. So we can't afford to say, well, we're only going to work from here to here. What about the ones who are 8 hours, 12 hours ahead of us, all the way in China? We can't afford. Others are almost 18 hours ahead of us. So time must not have anything to do with what we do. I thank the good Lord that I have the energy to continue to do the work that I'm doing now. I rarely get tired. Thank God for that.
This is, I mean, I would still like to have you, Her Excellency, on a one-on-one, you and I, and because this multiple you is not just. But today we want to talk about the ADDI as an organization. But I would like to have you on Her Excellency Dr. Arikana on his own show, to just know this kind of power and inspiration that you have. Now, one more question before I will go to Professor Harrison is like, if you compare what you do before, of course, you could say I stayed up 30 years because I wanted to feed my family. I want to put bread on my table. But this is a philanthropic thing. One of the biggest things that you are doing, putting out everything, volunteering for the continent. Is there a difference in the job description?
No, there isn't. I think I was able to do what I did as a medical doctor because I enjoy interacting with humanity.
Mhm.
The fact that I got paid I could submit an invoice and get paid and bill. That was gravy. But I could have done it, whether I was paid or not, because I thoroughly enjoyed my work with my patients. I feel like uh, I feel like I've experienced a lot in life, not because I went through it myself, but going through the experiences with my patients over the many years. I feel like I've
Mhm.
experienced the highest moments in life. I've experienced the lowest moments in life and everything in between, because I went through it with my patients. My patients, I
Mhm.
still remember some of them would say, Doc, when I come to you, I don't feel like I'm going to see a doctor. I feel like I'm going to visit. I had patients who would come to see
Mhm.
me because they say, Doc, you make me laugh. And when I laugh, I feel better. I have patients who would actually make an appointment, sit in my waiting room because they just wanted to spend 15, 20 minutes with me. Because we talked about
Mhm.
everything. We talked about life. We talked about being mothers, being children, being grandmothers. And so
Mhm.
the conversations were very rewarding for me. The conversations were enriching. And so they made me not feel like I'm going to work. Going to see my patients never felt like work. I was always visiting with my patients. It reminded me of many years ago, I was listening to Michael Jackson when he came up with his video Thriller. And I remember watching the video, and I was just like, I wonder what it's like to really have so much fun and still get paid for having fun, you know?
Mhm.
That was before I became a doctor. And then fast forward years later, I was now a doctor. And I remember one day it's 10 p.m. and I've had a long day in the office. And now I was in the hospital. I was following up on the patients I had admitted during the day, just kind of going back in to tuck them into sleep, so to speak. And I'm on my talking to one of my patients. It's 10:30 at night, and we're just laughing and having a great time. And I remember thinking, it's 10:30 at night. And here I am, I'm still in the hospital, and I'm having a time of my life with my patients. And we're just laughing and talking about everything. And I remember I said, you know what? I remember that video of Michael Jackson and how I thought, oh, how great it is to have such a job that you have so much fun and you still get paid. I said, I just realized that I have such a job that I get to have fun, and at the end of it I get paid. So I've been blessed in so many different ways, and for that I'm very grateful. So what I'm doing now is just a continuation of what I've been doing. The only difference is I don't get to bill anybody, so I don't get paid, but that's okay. My reward is coming when I know that when I leave this earth, my grandkids can grow up not having to worry that they won't be treated fairly because of the color of their skin. That is my ultimate reward, and I'm so looking forward to it. And I know if that's what I want, that's what millions of grandmothers out there want. That's what millions of mothers out there want. So that is our ultimate reward. It's better than any money anybody could pay me.
Thank you so much, Mother. Like I said, yes, there's just so much more than Her Excellency Dr. Arikana and the ADDI. So we're going to be separating these entities because apart from just being on this structure and the founder and president and the leader of the ADDI, Dr. Arikana is just an embodiment for the women of today. And just like Professor Harrison and the others that and Amira that have been on this board, it's not just seeing them through the structure of the ADDI, but seeing the presence that could come out with this kind of sacrifice, this volunteering to say, you know what, we don't care what the world thinks, but we're pushing our continent and our people together. This is a noble cause. No amount of money pay anyone to, just like me sitting here on on the Pan African Daily TV. I enjoy that passion of putting down something for my people and for our people, and I'm very happy to be of service to you, Her Excellency, forever as much as you would need me to be. So I would like to get in touch with Professor Harrison and to find out what are the things that she thinks that ADDI is going to achieve to change the educational structure of the Black people worldwide. I mean, what kind of energy is Professor Harrison, uh, okay, uh, working on day and night to give Her Excellency that power and to say, yes, I invited you and you saw that we could pull this continent and this race together. So yes, Prof. I'm very sorry. Your name was written doctor, and that's why until Her Excellency came in and said, no, she's a professor. And that's how I got to, that. Okay.
So are we there? There.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So it's fine. I am doctor. I have a PhD in African studies. But I also am in the classroom actively teaching. I teach African studies at George Washington University. So, prof, doctor, it doesn't matter. And frankly, when it comes right down to it, Lakeisha is just fine too. But I know we of African descent often stand on protocol, so it is whatever people prefer. Um, but first, let me say that I am humbled, immeasurably humbled by Her Excellency's words of introduction. It really is, Ambassador. You almost made me cry there. I'm glad I wasn't on camera when you were speaking initially. Um, but it is an honor to be here with ADDI, and it is not something that I take lightly. The idea of being the sector director for higher education for this monumental task. But what I bring to the table is the fact that I am a lifelong learner. While I've been a working professional for a very long time, I also was in school simultaneously at the same time. And I've earned degrees in just about every sector you can think of when it comes
Mhm.
to performing arts, psychology, the law, um, religious studies, women's studies, international studies, African studies. And on top of that, while I was working professionally, I've been working in the STEM field, in the extractive industry, in oil and gas, working with engineers and scientists and the like. So I come to this role with a very well rounded background in a number of different disciplines. And so that's what I am trying to bring to this role as the sector director for higher education, is to find the key talent and the key scholars around the globe with Her Excellency's help, who can help pull together a team of people to reshape and reimagine what higher education looks like for people of African descent, that is
Mhm.
focused on the African continent and an African centered approach to learning across all disciplines. No matter what it is, whether it's medicine, whether it's business, whether it's law, no matter what it is, the arts, you name it, what we at ADDI seek to accomplish is to reshape our way of learning so that it is centered on who we are as people, what we bring to each of these disciplines, and then once we complete our learning experience through ADDI, what we can then take to other communities on the continent based on what it is we've learned. You know, there's an old adage, to whom much is given, much is required. And so
Absolutely.
as we acquire learning, as we acquire knowledge, it is incumbent upon us to give back to our communities, and in this case, to give back to the continent that birthed us all. And so, with higher education, ultimately, our goal is to create universities. With ADDI, this is our third time being here. So, you know that we're looking at creating Wakanda cities across the
Yeah.
continent. And so there will be a university, an ADDI university at each location as well, beginning with Ghana. But beyond that, we're also not just looking at building a university. What we're also working on is building a resource of expertise that we can then deploy around the continent to fill gaps in the educational systems of higher education around the continent. Because
Mhm.
Her Excellency has spoken many times about the fact that there's a brain drain, and that's not anything new. That's something that people have been talking about when it comes to the African continent for decades, literally, about the fact that so much of our intellectual knowledge and capacity and professional expertise leaves the continent and doesn't come back. What we seek to do is to make the attractive for
So,
professionals and educators to want to stay on the continent, and even for those who may not stay, to stay a while, to stay long enough for several years to be able to impart and leave something behind, to plant seeds that actually blossom and put
mhm,
down roots on the continent and stay in order to rebuild our intellectual capacity. Because let's be honest, people of African descent are brilliant. We are the first people on the planet in terms of the Homo sapien race, right? Because let's also be honest about the fact that there really is only one human race, and that is those of us who are all Homo sapiens, right? This idea of whiteness, blackness, Asian, or etc., is all just a superficial division that divides us. We are all of African descent. And so
mhm,
the brilliance that Mother Africa has produced, that has created everything we see and understand around this world through all of the other uh, parts of the human family that we know of as other races, all comes from the continent of Africa. And so, as ADDI says, it's time for Africa and people of African descent to go home. The
mhm,
continent is calling us home. We have an opportunity and an obligation to go back and contribute to the motherland that birthed us, without whom none of us would exist.
mhm. Thank you so very much, Prof. I mean, I want to thank always the head and the foot of the ADDI, Her Excellency Dr. Arikana, because putting all these resources of Africans' children and calling them home, mother. I mean, I don't know how to always, you know it all. Um, you can see even from the charts and the followings. I would be coming back to you, Professor Lakeisha, to ask you particularly about the curriculum, because if we see, just throwing it out before I get back to you, just a lot have been said that the first problem, one of the first problems that has taken our minds and given us a white mind or a white way of thinking is the educational curriculum systems that we have on the continent. I mean, ever since the colonials came, they brought the church, their religion, and they brought us education, and they brought us hospitals. So I'll be coming back to that, but I just want to talk to Dr. Brother Benson, who is in charge of investment, and because I think this one is very important. But I'll get back to Mom to say, Doctor, these universities that Professor Lakeisha is talking about, so it's like the ADDI structures. I mean, I know I'm sitting on the executive board as well, but I want Dr. Arikana to say something on that.
Talk about yes, the Wakanda City of Return.
No, no, I'm talking about the universities. The universities.
Yes, I was going to talk about the universities within the Wakanda City of Return.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, so the Wakanda Cities of Return, it's a concept that we came with with the understanding that the brain drain out of Africa has got to be reversed if we are to
Mhm,
build a sustainable Africa. Keeping in mind that our colonizers built intentionally underdeveloped Africa. They built an Africa that served their purposes. They built infrastructure strictly for extractive purposes of extracting natural resources out of Africa.
mhm,
Nothing they did was ever designed to benefit Africa. Keep in mind, Africa, they only saw Africa as a base for natural resources. Everything they needed was in Africa.
mhm,
And so realizing that the brain drain has got to be reversed and that that is the only way we can build a sustainable Africa, we needed to start with what we are calling the African Diaspora Center of Excellence,
mhm,
aka Wakanda. Pivotal to that development is going to be a major university, which we are now going to be calling our own AIT, kind of like MIT, except African Institute of Technology. We're
Mhm.
also going to have a teaching hospital, which is going to be training some of the best doctors and healthcare professionals the world has ever seen. Because we know we can do it, because the educators that we need that are not in Africa today, they are in the diaspora. The
Mhm.
medical doctors that are not in and other healthcare professionals who are not in Africa today, they are in the diaspora. So if we can find a way of repatriating them, we know if all of them were to go back home to Africa today, we are nowhere near meeting the need that Africa needs in terms of expertise. What is
Mhm.
needed is capacity building, no question about it. For us to build a sustainable Africa, we have got to train the capacity that we need. Hence, the establishment of these African diaspora centers of excellence, which are pillared on education, and by education encompasses everything, including the hospitals. We're going to have to train those doctors and other healthcare workers. So, yes, we are pivoting everything on education, and which is why we wanted to make sure that we get the best to shepherd us through the process of undoing the damage that was done by the colonizers, and also undoing their educational system, which they basically left in place for us. It was colonial education, and it continues to this day. The sad part is, as Black people, as Africans, it's sad that in 2021, we still have not undone the colonial educational system. We all know that the process of miseducating the Africans started during colonization and even before. But
Mhm.
why has it taken us this long? Even now, as we speak, 2021, we haven't done anything about it. As ADDI, we are saying enough is enough. We must put an end to this insanity that we have continued to perpetrate for centuries.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency. I would talk to Brother Benson Kaswa, and yes, it's I'm sorry. I think there is a breakage from our part. That's why we keep breaking, but everything's fine. Thank you so very much for that explanation. Um, Brother Benson Kaswa, as chairman of African Chamber of Commerce, and also the director on trade and investment on the ADDI, what is it that Africa has not done right in terms of trade and investment? What is it that Africa needs to do better with the structure of ADDI?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you again here on this chat. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for being here with us. Let me reintroduce myself. I am Benson Kasue, and I represent the East Africa Chamber of Commerce, an entity that's been around since 2009. With reference to your question, what has Africa not done so much better? I think one of the things that Africa has failed is their inability or their lack of inability to attract or to engage the diaspora. We have all kinds of skills in diaspora. If you put all of us together, we don't need Chinese to build our roads. We don't need Europeans and Americans to come and build our large structures. We have the Africans that can do that here in the diaspora and back home in Africa. Why can't we use them? If you go to China, you're going to find any African doing a project in China. Come here in
Mhm.
America, you're not going to find any African doing a project here in America. Yet, we let them have all the projects in Africa they want, and we are never sitting on the high table. They are sitting on the high table, and we are here being handed out little crumbs. So we have failed, our governments have failed us in the sense that they are not allowed us to do that because they have the ability to do it, but they failed us in a large way. What ADDI hopes and plans to do is just to reverse that particular agenda,
Mhm.
where we allow the diasporans to participate, be very, very involved in all the projects we're doing in Africa. So that's what we are hoping to do, and I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. I think Her Excellency has been here on every occasion and has talked about it's like we have to start back from ground zero. There are no roads, no infrastructures in every sector. Now, if we want to anticipate that, how much volume of investment do we need to even just take Africa to another level?
Africa is a 2 trillion, just beginning, the $2 trillion economy. We can just start with that.
Mhm.
So think about what that can do to the region. Think of building infrastructure from the entire continent, the roads, the railroads, the pipelines, which we have a bunch of oil. Think of those things, and they are there. I think there's a good understanding, between the ADDI and the African leadership, that we'll get the first right of refusal for all the projects. Right now, as we speak, we've engaged Zambia, Tanzania, and of course, Ghana with the city of return. So we have the projects. And one of the things that I've seen is we as Africans have to kind of stay away from this, is to go and look at these projects and try to sell them to other people, monetize them. That will not happen because ADDI has these projects and we're going to be involved in managing that particular project. If you are looking at this project and want to be involved, you got to first of all join ADDI. Come in the right way. We'll look at the project with you, then we'll guide you to where you're going to go, and we're going to be our people doing the projects. If our people cannot afford to do the project, then we engage outsiders to participate. But there are so many of them. There's in the agricultural sector, there's so much to do. There's so much we can. Our people are starving, yet we have everything in that continent to feed our entire continent. While people infrastructure is poorly, they can't go from one point to another without just having problems with their trucks because the roads are so bad. Imagine if those roads need to be built, and we have the money. We get a lot of wealth in Africa. We have all the minerals that we just not necessarily utilizing properly. We have all those things, and as we plan on engaging ADDI and the African continent, we should be able to, to manage these properly. Did I lose you?
No.
Okay. I'm
Right. Um, so this is the golden opportunity that ADDI is offering to Africans. Like Her Excellency, I would always refer to her as the head and the tail, in the case that he made it very clear we should put our money where our mouth is. So no African is going to say, oh, I didn't have the chance with ADDI, isn't it?
No. Opportunity.
So
They have the opportunity here. They will have the opportunity here, and as a part of ADD, if they register with the organization, they will have all these opportunities. And we are trying to build a fund where which will help us to start engaging these projects. Our own money. We don't need necessarily people to come and give us money. We can create our own money, our own wealth. We have in this. Sorry, I lost you.
no, you didn't. It's just that the line is breaking. Okay. All right. But Her Excellency is right here. Okay. All right. Yes, it's okay. Hello.
Did I answer your question?
I don't know where we ended, but I was still to complete the question by like, so this is one of the biggest opportunity. Like no diaspora is going, or an investor is going to say, oh, I didn't have the opportunity because of the bad governance, because of the leaders that are giving these contracts out. The ADDI is here. We all know the projects and all the investment that is coming up there. You have the Wakanda City. You want to be a part. I know Her Excellency will talk about this, all this pot. Who can invest where, So I will get back to you, Brother Benson. I want to go back to Her Excellency and just find out one thing, because Her Excellency, you were here last week and we talked about, we had raised with our 1 million campaign almost 15,000. Where are we now with those figures, now that we're talking about trade and investment?
I did not check today before I came on the call because I just hopped from my 3-hour marathon
Okay.
right on to you. So I'm sorry I was not able to find out where the figures are as of today,
Okay.
but I'll send a message and see if I can get the information before we leave the program.
That's fine. Because we're talking about investment and there is also the funding. I know you've been talking about it a lot of times. Just to cut things clear, there's the fundraising going on for all of you that are watching us today, and it is a continuous process because we haven't even made a step into our goal. Our goal is a 1 million. I mean, we're talking at least. So, but we want to start and put ourselves to the test to see how much time that we can react. So it's a process of not just putting the funds, but putting it on time, in the timeline. Her Excellency, what timeline were we looking at to get this?
Well, we are hoping to get this 1 million in the next 30 to 60 days. The reason being the program that we are wanting to get into, we're hoping to have it actualized by July. And so the sooner we get the 1 million, the better off we're going to be. Let me also say, we're also saying as ADDI, it doesn't make any sense for us to plan on what we are planning and still turn around and look to the ones who have been exploiting Africa to fund us.
Correct.
They are intentionally setting up themselves to exploit our beloved continent. Naturally, you don't expect them to assist us so we can block them in exploiting us. Now, the good thing is there's plenty for everyone. In Africa, it's a huge continent. We are grateful for any foreign direct investment that comes to Africa, but we also must be clear of one thing.
Mhm.
You don't find Black people leading the development agenda for the Chinese. You don't go to Mexico and find Black people leading the development agenda for Mexico. You don't go to Europe. You don't go to India. You don't go to Australia. You don't go to Russia, Japan. Those people from those nations and those regions, they are driving their development agenda. We therefore, as Black people, cannot allow that platform to be taken away from us. Those who have colonized us, those who have exploited us, they have been driving the development agenda, which has been an agenda for underdevelopment. IDDI is saying, we have the expertise, we have the know-how, we have the financial muscle. All we have to do is unite. ADDI is reminding African diaspora that there is a seat that has your name, a vacant seat that has your name. ADDI is reminding African diaspora that the agenda for the development of Africa can only be driven by the Africans and no one else. And by Africans, I'm referring to all people of African descent living outside Africa, as well as living within the continent. That position, we cannot give it up. It was taken away from us centuries ago, and we have never reclaimed it. The only way to reclaim that position, the only way to reclaim that seat is for us to pull our financial resources together, because money talks. Without money, we are wasting our time. We can talk until the cows come home, like we say in Africa. With no money, no voice, go home and be quiet. Let's be clear about that. African diaspora, to whom much is given, much is expected. We've had the opportunity to leave our beloved continent, experience what it's like to live in faraway lands, to appreciate how the rest of the world gets to do what they do. It is now our time and responsibility and obligation to look back home and apply what we have learned, apply what they used to pull down Africa. Let's take that knowledge and take it back home to Africa to rebuild and recreate that Africa that once was, the Africa that was the center of the world, the Africa that gave the world the civilization that the world has. We have a responsibility to look back as children of Africa. And ADDI is saying we are supremely qualified to accomplish that. So the building of the Africa we want, let's not allow anyone besides us Black people, us Africans, to be on that driver's seat. Failure to do so will be a disservice not only to our children, our grandchildren, but generations to come. Let's refuse to have others who have driven the African underdevelopment agenda continue to succeed. This moment is calling for the children of Africa to be on the driver's seat for the development agenda, not underdevelopment of Africa. We will build our Africa, come what may.
How much more? How much more do you want to hear? Yes. I mean, she keeps oiling our heart, and the message is constant, precise, and straight. There's no way you African, me African, are gonna sit back now and complain. There's just even no way that we're gonna sit and say the world is not giving us a chance or they are doing this to us. This is the moment. If you haven't signed into ADDI, please do so. Do it right now on the www.ouraddi.org. www.ouraddi.org. You that are watching me from the continent or in the diaspora or anywhere around the world, if you haven't signed up, these are the three editions that Her Excellency is here, and she's going to be doing that to make you understand, to hold us responsibility. And so there's not going to be any, oh, we didn't do this. The time is right now. So please make sure you sign up and create and be a part of this new Africa, of this new Africa. I would like to get back to Professor Harrison on the question of the education and curriculum. I know it's going to take a fight. I want to say a fight because, like Her Excellency said here some times ago, some of the even the resistance that we'll be facing is is us. Maybe not even our colonizers anymore. They focus now on doing some other things that we are not focusing on. Maybe going through other segments to introduce another kind of continue to reap.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me, Dr. Lakeisha?
I can't hear you. If you can hear me, I can't hear you. I just hear buzzing.
Oh, all right. This is gonna be sad if I cannot hear you, but I hear you clearly.
Um,
I hear you, but you can't hear me. Oh, all
nope.
right. So then, okay, just
Unfortunately, I can't hear you. I'm going to sign back out and sign back
yes,
in if you can hear me.
correct. Just do that. Do that.
I see thumbs up. Okay.
Yes, yes, do it. So I'll keep Her Excellency a little bit busy and Brother Benson on this topic of how responsible we should be. Her Excellency, you gave us some tips, particularly us women, how to save some money and engage and invest in our people. Can you just say it in a very short statement, please? I know you said that we own a lot of handbags and stuff. Hello, Her Excellency.
Keeping in mind that we are close to 400 million African diaspora around the globe, if we were to take just 1 million of us and say each one commits to $85 a month, in a year we'll be sitting on $1 billion, or of course more than $1 billion, because we'll do a lot more financial engineering with those funds. But we can easily be sitting on $1 billion in 1 year from 1 million people with $85. And to kind of bring the message home for those who say, oh, we can't do it, I challenge women to say, go into your closet right now, see how many handbags, shoes, dresses that you have that still have tags on. It's a lot of money. We're talking $85. We're talking hamburger money. We're not even talking enough money for one meal at a nice restaurant. So it's pocket change. It's what we can do when we come together, if we make our mind, we bring our minds together. So we are programmed to always look to somebody to fund us. We are never programmed to say, what can I do? I often hear from diaspora, we're always poking holes. The other day, I was on a program and they were asking me, why isn't there an airline from the Caribbean to Africa? And my response to the gentleman was that it's because you haven't created one. Because and because his question was, why isn't there? So the question is, if you're asking why isn't there an airline between the Caribbean and Africa, who do you think was supposed to start that airline? Except you're waiting for somebody to do it. And so I'm expecting my sister to do it, and she's expecting somebody else to do it. But that's how we were programmed as Black people, to always look to them. And this them is almost unspoken. We automatically expect them to do it. So we can only be consumers. That mentality, that thinking has got to change. The question from that gentleman should have been, Ambassador, what can we do to start an airline between the Caribbean and Africa.
Mhm.
Can we bring our monies together? But what can we do? Looking at solution focused rather than problem focused. So as Black people, part of our problem is we are always looking for problems. Why isn't that one there? Why isn't that one there? Rather than, oh, there's a hole there. This is how I can plug it. There's a deficiency here. This is how I can plug it. Look into the tools in your toolbox and always be looking for solutions. Let's stop looking for problems. And quite often, one of my cousins used to say, Ambuya is like grandmother. She would say, Ambuya, please run away from people who will find problems out of solutions. They will walk through a garden of nothing but solutions and they'll come out with nothing but problems because they are programmed to always find problems. We are looking for people who are saying, what can I do? These are the tools in my toolbox. And those are the people we are looking for because we should be solution oriented. And through solution orientation, it leads us into ownership of the pillars of development, pillars of economic development in our countries. We must be solution oriented, not problem oriented. That's another serious problem I find among us as Black people. We are always complaining. I use an example of we are sitting here 10,000 miles away. We complain about the Chinese taking over Africa. But at the same time, we want development to come to Africa. We want new roads. We want new airports. We want this. We want that. But if the Chinese don't do it, are you prepared to do it? No, we are not prepared to do it. But we like to complain about the Chinese taking over Africa. And here's the one that really kills me. How come you don't complain about the colonizers who've been underdeveloping Africa for centuries? Where is the infrastructure that the colonizers built? And yet I don't hear the venom going after the colonizers in Europe. But instead, the same colonizers are standing on some crazy platform warning us Africans that watch out for the Chinese. We need to be watching out for you too. You haven't done anything for us for centuries. So what platform is the old thief standing on to warn us about a new thief in our village? You are both thieves, you need to go. But the point I'm bringing this home is to say, we don't think about some of the things that we are saying and doing. We're programmed to complain about the Chinese, so we run off and complain about the Chinese. What are the Chinese doing? Chinese are filling contracts that you and I should be taking. Are we even making an effort to go home and get those contracts? No, we are not. Are we making an effort to pull our monies together so we can take those contracts? Those contracts are contractor funded. Are we putting our monies together so we can go get that contract for the power plant that the Chinese are getting? The answer is no. Are we putting our monies together in order to get that contract to build that railway line, to build that airport? The answer is no. All we do is sit back from 10,000 miles away and complain and complain and complain. Do you want the presidents of all these African countries to be the one to pick up their own shovels and go build a road and go build an airport? No. What's happening is these Chinese, the Indians, the Japanese, the Russians, the Australians, they are flying to Africa en masse. They are going to the development agencies for every country. They are lining on their doors, on the managing directors of those offices, lining to know what opportunities are in your country. And they don't care what country it is. Today they're in Zambia, tomorrow they're in Kenya, day after they are in Ghana. And they're looking for those opportunities. Where are you? Why aren't you looking for those opportunities? We were being presented by Zambia. The managing director said, Ambassador, my biggest problem is every day my office is full of Chinese wanting to take the contracts and they will be self-funding. Not a single African from the continent or let alone the diaspora. But somehow we want development to just happen. We don't want the Chinese to do it. We don't want these foreigners to do it, but we don't want to do it. How on earth are we going to build Africa? Are we even making any sense? That's why we have to understand that they intentionally taught us how to read, but not to reason. Our ability to think through some of the dumb things we do is limited. And when we complain about the Chinese, we are so serious about it. If I were to ask you that this contract that's just been given to the Chinese to build this power plant, If I were to ask the president to take it away from the Chinese, are you Black people prepared to go take that contract so you can provide electricity to that 75-year-old grandmother who has never had electricity all her life? You are sitting here enjoying electricity, enjoying good infrastructure, enjoying running water every day, 10,000 miles away, and you're too busy complaining because some Chinamen happen to get a contract to provide electricity to your grandmother in Africa, and you are not, something that you are not prepared to do. Let's be serious here. Let's start being serious and stop being jokers. We need to unite and we need to be practical. We should be solution oriented, not problems and complain and complain and complain. Problems are there to be solved. So let's get on with it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I mean, we will always come back to you for this oil and keep talking. It's still part of the education. But now I think, Professor Harrison, you can hear me now better, right?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're so sorry. I don't know what happened, but yeah, but you're here. If you listen to Her Excellency talk on these issues so many times, often about why we complain, why we're not doing, do you think this actually has to do with the educational system that we were programmed into?
Absolutely. There's no other way around it. And being an African American, I can say that education system is here in the United States as well. And having studied African studies at Howard University, that is a topic of conversation about education systems on the continent of Africa. And so that's one of our main foci within the higher education sector at ADDI is a focus on decolonizing the curriculum that we intend to present. And the reason why we are focused on that is because we want to reclaim what we already know, but that is not taught. That we already have the brilliance, the knowledge, the understanding, the ingenuity to be able to do the work that the continent needs, to be able to develop the continent, to be able to provide the resources, the architects, the engineers, the artists. All of those things, we already have that talent. We just have not been using it for the benefit of the African continent, not collectively as a whole. So, what our intention is and our hope is, ADDI's purpose is to bring together Black people from all over the world to go back home to the African continent and invest our resources, our knowledge, and our talents back into the continent. But a big part of that is we need to also reframe our education. And there are plenty of us around the world who at least have been educated in a way that is African centered. And so our hope is that we will go back to the continent and build a university moving forward that builds on that African centered approach to education. The information is there. The education is spread out among many of us all over the globe. We just need to consolidate it, bring it together, and then bring it to bear for the continent at home. Decolonizing the curriculum is a conversation that's going on everywhere, all over the planet when it comes to Africa, even in predominantly white institutions. And I can say that as a professor at a predominantly white institution here in the United States. That is a conversation that is literally being had even here. Right. So there is now, I think, part of the unfortunate benefit of what has come out of what happened to our brother George Floyd last summer is that there is a collective consciousness awakening among African people all over the world, but even among non-Black people around the world who realize that something is very amiss, something is very wrong, and that we didn't get to the point where a police officer in broad daylight murdered a man in the street without any regard for his life, except for some conditioning in his mind that he learned over time through some sort of education that was learned, be it informal or formal. And so, what we want to do with ADDI through the formal higher education system is to reframe and decolonize our minds as we decolonize the curriculum. so that we understand our own brilliance, our own intelligence, and our own capabilities, and we bring that to bear for the continent. So that as we begin to build and shape young minds coming out of the primary school system and turn them into professionals, they go out into the working world with a mindset about the nature, the true nature of who they are, what they have to offer the African continent, and what Africa has to offer itself and the rest of the world. And so that is the main focus that we want, no matter what else we accomplish through the university, through study abroad programs. There are a number of different initiatives that we have in mind that we are going to be working on in the higher education sector. But the fundamental thing we want to accomplish is to reprogram our own minds and our own intellect to be proud of who we are, but more importantly, to know who we are and what it is we have to offer to ourselves, what it is we are capable of building ourselves. And you can't get to the point where we are developing these initiatives and taking over these projects if we're not trained in it. And we have to know that we have the ability and the capability to do these things, right? And so we for the benefit of the continent of Africa, we know that we can build things in other places, but we don't think about the fact that, hey, why am I building this here in the US? Why am I working on building this in Canada? Why am I working on architectural designs here in China? Why am I working on this system of building a new robot in England when I could be doing that in Africa? Why am I not working on a robotics program on the continent of Africa for the benefit of bringing robotics to the continent to improve development on the continent of Africa? And I think when we come down to it, it's just because we've been conditioned not to think about it. And that's what we want to change at ADDI. And that's what we want to change within the higher education sector at ADDI, to think about Africa first and always, because that is who birthed us and that is who we owe a debt of gratitude for this life. And so we have to go back and we have to give back to whom we came from in order to ensure that our motherland is as developed as the other lands in which we may find ourselves living. Because if our motherland isn't as developed as everywhere else in the world, then we have failed our own mother and our own home.
Thank you very much, Professor. I will stay back on this because this is one of the pillars. Education. I mean, Nelson Mandela said, if one was taught to hate, so one can be taught to love. Sometimes I think, or like Her Excellency was saying, we talk things, we dialogue, we discuss, but there is a difference when we sit down now to learn. The information is different, isn't it? A conversation that we just dialoguing and talking about everything we experience our knowledge, but sitting down to learn something, to learn about me or to develop. The essence of classroom sitting and teaching, and the difference between just conversing over a topic. Could you just pour a little bit of light on that?
Well, I think it depends on your perspective and your approach to teaching, because some professors approach teaching from that perspective of, we're in a formal classroom, I give you information, you receive it, you take notes, you learn it, and then you prove to me that you learned it through a test. But there is a way of teaching that involves dialogue, that involves conversation. And personally, that's my teaching style. When I go into a classroom, be it virtually online these days or in a physical space, when I start the class after having given them assigned material, I don't start by speaking at them. I start by asking them questions. What do you think about what you read today? Why do you think I assigned this video for you to watch? And we engage in a dialogue. And my approach to teaching utilizes that particular style because I find it effective with students, because when they can speak it back to me, then I know that they have grasped it. And then I know also where the gaps are, and then I can fill those in. But I think that the dialogue that comes out of a form of education can vary depending on the person's style, because there is something to be said about lecturing, right? There is something to be said about speaking to someone or a group of people and letting them digest the material that you've imparted on them. But I think the only way that we are truly going to grow and develop our systems of education from an African centered perspective is through a dialogue approach, because we're talking about bringing Black people from all over the globe with different experiences. And we don't really sit down and talk to each other about our experiences, including in our various educational systems and the ways in which we've learned. We can learn so much from one another by sitting down and having conversations and teaching each other about what we've learned from where we are, and then pulling all of that together to collectively bring that to bear to help with the African continent as well. Because we have so much to learn from our people from the continent, those of us who are from the diaspora, like I am. And frankly, at Howard, going through the African Studies department, most of my professors were from the African continent. And I can't tell you the amount of information that I learned from them and sitting down in dialogue and conversation with them. So collectively, if we can come together to talk about what it is we feel we need from an educational perspective. What is it we have that's missing? And what it is that we have gained through our own educational processes, and how we can combine that to create something new and novel in our approach to what we want to do in the higher education sector at ADDI. I hope that answers your question.
It does. But I'll get back to Dr. Arikana, to Her Excellency Dr. Arikana on this. Specifically, I was looking for a way for Professor Harrison to to give, like, if we look at really our brain. Let's just take an example. Yesterday we had Dr. Obati Shakar, even Professor James Moore have been here, and we're saying, isn't it also a requirement, even in terms of leadership? I just want to divert a little bit in terms of leadership, that people that will lead the Africa that the ADDI is already doing, or the future of Africa, should undergo some kind of training of Africanness, even the leaders, just to gain consciousness of who we are again. You made an example here, Her Excellency, about this practical, simple example where a kid was given different colors of dolls and he chose the other one. Now, what went wrong with that exercise that a dialogue alone cannot solve?
Now that one, my dear, that one is really deep. It's a different conversation right there. But before we go into that conversation, and I'll go to that one, there's a need for us to reorient our thinking. Just like I tried to say earlier, the question about why don't we have an airline between between the Caribbean and Africa? That person never thought about, it never occurred to him that you could actually call up 10, 15 of your brothers. You can all talk about it and say, you know what, guys, there's an opportunity there. We could start an airline. I may not have anything to do with, I may not have any knowledge of aviation, but hey, let's pull our monies together. Then we can find people in aviation. And let's see if we can set an airline. That kind of mindset of saying, solution oriented. It never occurred to him. I'm reminded of a story of a family that had a home that was invaded by mice. And then the family brought in a cat. Of course, the cats like to nicely walk, and they just snatch the mice. And the mice could not hear the cat coming because the cat walks very softly. And one by one, the mice were disappearing. So they decided to call for a meeting to talk about how to deal with this cat that's making them disappear because they can't see or hear him or she coming. So it was a big, nice meeting for the mice. And one mice got up and talked about the idea of having a bell, tying a bell around the neck of this mouse. And all of the mice followed. They said, oh, yes, that is a great idea. And then one little mouse in a corner got up and said, that's all nice and wonderful. You all are agreeing that we should tie a bell around the cat's neck so we can hear him coming. The question is, who is going to tie the bell around the cat's neck? And all of them, none of them had even thought about that. They were just following. They jumped on the bandwagon because it sounded good. But was it practical? Did you stop to think about the mechanics? Out of that whole room full of mice, only one mouse was able to think critically and analyze what was being discussed. Others, they were just spoon-fed. They opened their mouths and they swallowed without question. The redirection, reorientation of our thinking, that's what Professor is talking about. Challenge us, think. Professors should just not stand in front of the classroom and regurgitate what they know to the
Absolutely.
Challenge the students to think. There's a need for the reorientation, the re-education of the African, and actually us Black people, because the same is true. We are being trained to be good workers for those who own those organizations, those entities that we're going to be working for. So yes, that's one part. To go back to the issue of the dolls, that one is deep, is profound. For those that are not aware of the experiment, they took a group of young little girls, Black and white, under 3 years of age. They were all given dolls, Black and white dolls, and they were asked to choose what doll they wanted. Naturally, all the white girls picked white dolls that looked more like them. What was shocking was the fact that all Black little girls, they picked a white doll. And when asked, why did you pick a white doll? And they all said uniformly, because the Black doll is ugly. Now, these are little girls under 3 years of age. And I can tell you as a Black mother that I know none of those Black mothers ever sat their little girls down and told them that Black was ugly. The question then becomes, and what is most frightening at a very deep level, is the appreciation that these little girls at under 3 years of age, they already knew that the dolls that look like them are ugly. Think of the imprint that's being put in their subconscious, that the doll that looks like you is ugly, therefore stay away from it. And then that same little girl is going to grow up to be a CEO of a company. It's going to grow up to be a president of a country with the same mindset. So when that same little girl grows up to be a grown-up woman, and she's in the boardroom and she's sitting across from white people, she's going to see them as superior, and she's going to see herself as inferior. That little girl, because nobody ever stops her to say, stop. We don't know how you got to feel this way, but this thinking is wrong. We must understand that the way we were brainwashed, it goes back to prior to the children of Africa being taken out of Africa as slaves. The colonizers, rather the settlers at that time, when they went to Africa, they found an amazing continent with some of the most powerful people in their kingdoms. They set out a plan to destroy Africans for the purposes of exploiting them. They sent the missionaries first to go and subdue the Africans, give us the Bible, tell us, blessed are the poor, for their riches are in heaven. If you slap you on one cheek, turn another cheek. So by the time the real thieves came behind, the African was subdued. The African was already taught that there's something called heaven and hell, and that in heaven there are these beings or things or whatever you call them called angels, and that they are white and they're desirable, and that everything they do is desirable. You want to be like the angels. And of course, they had already told us about the colors black and white and orange and green. So the angels were white. And then they turned around and said, oh, while we may not look white like this piece of paper, like this tablecloth, we too are white like the angels. And we said, okay. Then they turned around and told us about hell. And there's something called the devil. that's also black in color. And this devil is undesirable, is the mean. No one wants to be like the devil. Denounce and run away from the devil. And by the way, while you don't blend with your little black shoes and your little black dress and your little handbag, you too are black, just like the devil. And we said, okay, we never questioned it. Then they said, let's go to church. Let's go kneel down. Even Jesus Christ, that we all know was not a white person. Jesus Christ was a brown person because the Bible says his skin was crimson. We know that to be true because when Mary and Joseph were running away from King Herod, they were advised to run off to Egypt because in Egypt, he would blend in with others who looked like him. If Jesus Christ was white, they could have told them to go to Europe. But of course, in Europe, he would stand out like a sore tooth. So we know Jesus Christ was a brown man. But over the years, the color of Jesus Christ has gotten lighter and lighter. So they said, pray to a white Jesus Christ that looks like us. Pray to the angels that look like us. Denounce the devil that looks like you. That's when the destruction of the black mind began. It started with the misrepresentation of the good book, the Bible. The misrepresentation of Christianity by the missionaries who were sent to destroy the African in preparation for the colonizers coming behind and stealing from us while we had our eyes closed holding the Bible. They took everything. Understanding the beginning, the genesis of why we feel the way we do is crucial. And now it's almost as if we've undergone a genetic mutation, where from generation to the other, nobody ever has to tell us that we are inferior, we just know it. What's really frightening is that this strategy was put in place centuries ago. They took us from a people who had no color, people who knew and understood ourselves to be Africans with no color. They introduced the issue of color to criminalize blackness, to make us self-hate, to make us not trust each other. That has speculated to this very day. And that's why that experiment is a sad experiment. It strikes and goes to the core of why we self-hate, why we don't trust and believe in each other. We don't even believe in our own abilities as individuals. It goes back to a strategy that was put in place by the settlers when they invaded our beloved continent. And they put together a strategy that has persisted to this very day. So understanding that genesis is important, because that is the only way that we can stand in face of everyone in the world and tell them that what you're telling us is a lie and always has been. These are the lies that Martin Luther King spoke of when he says, one day somebody lied. Why aren't we denouncing these lies for what they are? They are damaging to our ability to come together, to our ability to build our own continent. Is those lies that go to the core of our psyche. And that is where they got us. Let's understand it. It is sad to see a 3-year-old look at a doll that looks like her and call it ugly. And by so doing, she's calling herself ugly. By so denying to take that doll, she is denying her sheer existence. What hope do we have if we continue to raise children who feel that way? We have got to put an end to this. Africans, Black people, the original people, what I often say, the proud, the beautiful, the intelligent, sophisticated, highly adaptable, and totally indestructible children of one mother Africa. We must stand on the tallest mountain and proclaim to the world who we are. We are not inferior to anybody. We're just as smart as anybody. The only difference is we give birth to humanity. And without the Black woman, we would not have humanity as we know it. So who is to call who who? Black women understand that. Black men understand that. You are fathers and mothers of humanity. Don't you ever let anyone make you feel inferior. You gave birth to the world.
Yes, at least we're charged up again, and we know the reason why we need to reach our goal with the 1 million campaign. Enough. I mean, just imagine that you'll be sitting in the church and listening to this. I want to go back to Professor Harrison. I know that we keep losing you, and I don't want to lose you again before I ask this question. Professor Harrison.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know why this stream keep throwing you out. But I want to go back to a question that you mentioned. Not a question, you made a comment about the consciousness of the African since last year with the miserable, I don't know, it's not a miserable, with the intentional killing of George Floyd, our brother, has given the African a consciousness. You, like the professor, and what has been the difference? How do you see this narrative continue? We know they've been killing a lot, and we march and we come back and it happens again. Do you see this decade as something that would just, yeah, I mean,
That's a huge question. Goes far beyond the matter of education.
yeah.
But what I can speak to is what I feel. And what I feel is that there is something different about what has happened since then. Though Black Lives Matter started a long time ago, because it's been at least five years now. I believe it actually may have been in 2014 when the Black Lives Matter movement started. But what I can say is that there has been a sustained focus and outward expressions of people taking offense at the idea of white supremacy and calling it by its name that I have not seen and heard in a sustained way prior to the murder of George Floyd in, I think it was May last year, the last week of May last year, from non-African people. African people, Black people, have been talking about white supremacy since white supremacy started, right? And of course, in recent years. But what I have seen is a concerted effort by many people who are not African to call out white supremacy, and not just call it out because it's in fashion and it's in vogue, but to actually, as you said a few moments ago, have a dialogue about it and a conversation about it. It doesn't mean that it's been cured, it's been fixed, and it's going away anytime soon. But I feel something different about it, because I know in my own experience that I am having far more candid and open conversations with non-Black people on this topic in ways that I have not before, who are also, whose ears and minds are open to listening and receiving the dialogue, not just doing it because it's what is in vogue. But one of the things for me that's important in terms of ADDI is the consciousness awakening for maybe some of us Black folks around the world who were not necessarily active in working on coming together and our collective Blackness and working on behalf of the African continent, and realizing we need to do more working together for ourselves in order to do more to build up ourselves. And there is a collective effort that I see of people coming together across things that used to or may have divided us as Black people before, where we're saying, okay, no, we have to squash all of that now. All of those divisions, all of those things that divided us before, it's time out for that. We have to come together now and do better working together to find a way to improve the lot and work on behalf of our own people now in order to solve some of these problems. And just going back to Her Excellency's comments about that story about the dolls. I studied that in college in getting my psychology degree in psychopathology, and the issue really is the ways in which all of this symbolism, all of these ways that our minds have been conditioned, are very subliminal. And what's interesting is that they're covert and overt at the same time. So they're right there in plain sight, but we've been so conditioned to miss them that we don't even recognize these little symbols and little signs of ways that we've been conditioned to think of ourselves as less than or to accept our lot in life. And I think one of the things that has shifted since last summer is that those scales are starting to fall off of our eyes, and we're starting to, in much larger numbers, get it and come together and work together to try to combat it, and then try to find a way to create our own spaces, our own counter narratives, our own counter spaces that are safe for us, so that we can combat the narrative that leads to the murder of George Floyd.
Thank you so very much, Queen, and thank you so very much, Professor. I mean, all. Yes, we're rounding up with this conversation. It's really sad. Each time the ADDI is here and the team, it's like we should hold these conversations on daily basis. The more we come closer, the more we want to know, the more we are awake, and the more Africans are just so thirsty for this kind of knowledge, not just knowledge that we see and we drink and we think. I think the lesser majority are the ones that are actually like still before the COVID. But majority, particularly from my experience on the Pan-African Daily TV, is also very, very amazing. And how in this short year, as we started also the program with this issue of George Floyd, and ever since then, we've made it a duty to be here and to even just heal ourselves as people, just heal ourselves, even though we talk about building Africa, but also just connecting and just tapping into ourselves to heal us, you know. So thank you so very much. I mean, coming here to give us such, I know it's a short time to get a lot. Like I heard from Her Excellency, you're a lawyer, you are into psychology, you're into a lot of things. So why not? We'll still be getting you on one-on-one also to just treat some other topics that are also, you know, relating to all these issues that keeping us apart. I would like to ask Brother Benson one last question, and I will give the floor. I will open up the lines to take two calls. I see a lot of people are agitating. They want to ask some questions to ADDI directly, to Her Excellency and the team. So, but I want to ask Brother Benson, who has been quiet and for a while, and I feel a little bit like, oh, Mom, are you just bringing the woman war out here on the continent? Or yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Brother Benson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Sitting as the chairman of the African Chamber of Commerce, what is the difference now, and what is it that you want to tell the audience and in this production they should do for ADDI in terms of trade and investment?
I think one of the things people need to know is how to engage ADDI. People, they want to engage us, but they don't know how to. We have the projects. And when we have the project, rather than going around to these countries and trying to engage people on the ground, they'll be wasting their time. We have Our Excellency here. If you want to succeed in Africa, you don't deal with just everybody. You deal with top leadership. And with the support of Our Excellency, we will get to the top leadership, make decisions that are necessary to further the project along. Secondly, people are used to doing business shady way. We will not do that. There's a process that is involved here that requires vetting, and that's critical because we just don't want to take everybody to do these projects. We want to make sure, number one, they have the capacity, the ability, and the knowledge and the money to do these projects. That makes it easier. We are building a bigger tent at ADDI. We are inviting diasporans to participate here and be a part of this. This is a bigger tent for all Africans, not just for one region. That's what we see. So for those who are listening, those who have attempted to engage us, we are building a process as well. The process will involve registering with the HDDI and accessing the projects. There's a way you can access those projects, not just throwing them out there, but follow the process, engage us, and we will get you to the right places where you need to be. We want to look at the diasporans, first of all, give them first right of refusal, and from there they can, if they can do the project, we engage the Westerners who have been around for a long time. We're going to have our own money. Some people come to us and persuade us that we have all these, we have billions of dollars to do these projects. As Excellence noted earlier, this is the same people that have come and taken advantage of our continent. We don't want to repeat that. That's why it's so critical for us to raise our own money to do these projects. And we're investing now in the continent for our future, for our kids, for generations to come. So get involved, do your contribution, join ADDI, and let's move this direction together.
Thank you very much. I have a question before I go back to Her Excellency. Please, we're going to be talking about the Africa 101, a wake-up call. We can never talk about ADDI without saying, let's visit our history. So if you haven't gotten that book, Her Excellency will be giving us a little light on it. But there's a question here from Norma, who is saying, we have to continue the dialogue, Dr. Harrison. Please let us know what our education community or committee of the ADDI will be doing. Professor? Professor Harrison? Yes. Did you hear the question, or you can even read it in the chat? All right.
Part of our team. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining us. So there is a team that we are in the midst of putting together for higher education sector to bring forward a number of initiatives. I've already talked about the fact that our ultimate goal is to start a number of universities that will be located in each of our Wakanda cities of excellence. But in the meantime, that's our long-term goal. Short-term goal, we have a number of things that we're working on. The first of which, and this is one of the reasons why increased membership and donations to ADDI is so critical, we have our legacy project that we're working on, where while we're in the process of beginning to build a university, we want to begin building connections across the diaspora among students and scholars, students in particular. And so we will be starting a program, as Her Excellency has called it, a pen pal program among those of African descent in the diaspora and those on the continent at the college level to engage and interact with one another and engage in, as you mentioned earlier, dialogue with each other as collegiates, as those who are college age, to talk about their experiences across the diaspora and what they are learning. And that will then feed into a study abroad program that ADDI is working on, where we will take students in the diaspora who are descended from those who survived the slave trade, who have never been to Africa before, back to the continent for the first time in order to engage in cultural and educational immersion in order to learn more about the continent itself, to study at a university on the continent for several weeks in the summertime, or I should say the Northern Hemisphere summertime, and go to the African continent and learn and study. And our first opportunity is going to be in Ghana. We are working on that now. The pandemic is kind of complicating matters, so it's not exactly clear when we will be able to start the first set of students who actually are able to go. But before all of that happens, we are going to start with the Pen Pal program. And so we are working on the process of getting everything set up to begin identifying students and schools who will be able to participate in that. And one of the first things that we're starting with is Social Africa.
Mhm.
It is an online platform that I'm sure your listeners and viewers are familiar with, where we're going to
And we
be
are
using.
all joining. Yes.
Yeah, we're going to be using that as a vehicle to connect the students to each other. So that's one of one of the first two is the pen pal program, and then beyond that the study abroad program, and then we're going to be also working on developing the curriculum and the work to build the universities. But there's more to come, and as I said, we're in the beginning stages, and we're pulling together our experts, and we're going to sit down and talk more about what else we can do as the higher education sector for ADDI. But those are some of our initial projects that we're working on.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you. I mean, too much light out there on that topic. And thank you, Sister Norma, for bringing up that question. Sorry. I mean, if you have other questions, you can drop them in the chat. If not, I'm going to open up the line to take one or two questions. But as the lines are getting ready, I would like to go back to Her Excellency to always remind us of the need that every African should be having this one book, which is a must in their library. Africa 101. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. During my tenure as the AU ambassador to the United States, I think one thing became very apparent to me. That was the appreciation that we as diaspora are not going home to participate in the development of Africa, not because we don't want to, but because we didn't really have a full understanding. And quite often we were putting blame. Yes, blame that's due, but we were giving that blame the importance that it did not deserve. In other words, I felt that we were being thrown a shiny object, and we were running after the shiny object, and yet the shiny object was a diversion. The real issues were in the opposite direction. If I may use the example of a tree of life, like I'm calling it, the issues of Africa to do with healthcare, poor healthcare, education, poor infrastructure, poor leadership, corruption, disease and starvation. Those are all issues above the tree on this tree of life. They are the leaves and the fruits, the bad fruits, the bad leaves, the bad flowers, the branches, they are falling off one season after the other. But we're never concentrating on why is this African tree of life ailing? Why is it failing to give us the good, delicious fruits? Why is it giving us the beautiful blooming flowers? Why is it the leaves are drying season after another? It's because we are not paying attention to the issues of the root. The issues of the root are those issues, systems that were put in place to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. Who are they? One, what are those issues under the root? The issues are the brainwashing of the African, like I talked earlier. The Berlin Conference, chopping up of our continent, disrupting trade, disrupting our ability to communicate with each other, assigning neighboring countries to colonizers who spoke different languages. So when we don't speak the same language, we don't even realize that once upon a time, we were one family. Disruption all around of the continent through the Berlin Conference. Then the colonizers, even at independence, they gave us political liberation, but they never gave us economic liberation. The companies that controlled African economies during colonization, they continue to control African economies years past colonization. We are now in neo-colonization. The average African country, the majority of the employers in those countries are companies that go back to the former colonizers. So the colonizers have never left Africa. Issue number 3. Issue number 4, the world trade policies that are giving a blind eye to African products being relabeled, policies that make it difficult for African countries to add value to their natural resources. Hence, we are busy creating jobs for distant worlds when we need those jobs in our own countries. But if it is a small little country like Lesotho, a little country like Benin, a little country like Gambia, when you try to negotiate and push back and say, I must add value to my natural resource, Big China comes in and just bulldozes you over. You are not even anywhere where you can fight. You just take whatever they give you. You are lucky that they're even interested in your natural resources, because if you don't sell it to them, for what they want you to sell it for. They just go next door to Togo.
Mhm.
They just go next door to Ghana and get what they want. So again, back to the Berlin Conference, back to the international trade policies that are skewed to disadvantage the Africans. That too need to be addressed. Number 5, the international finance systems that see African countries in general spending over a third of their GDP on loan repayment. What they're spending on loan repayment is more than what they're spending on education and healthcare combined. How can
Mhm.
any nation survive if a third of your GDP is going towards loan repayment? Thanks to the Bretton Woods institutions such as the World Bank, the IMF, they give African countries humongous interest rates. Many African countries, I would say comfortably over 95% of African countries, have never defaulted on their loans. And yet the rating agencies intentionally use all kinds of skewed, frivolous reasons as to why the ratings for those African countries should be poor, so they can justify giving African countries loans with exorbitant interest rates, loans African countries can never be able to pay, loans that will always keep Africans constantly trying to dig themselves out of the financial doldrums they find themselves in. So the world financial systems as well, they need to be addressed, they need to be redone. But again, we as people of African descent, we need to understand all these issues. So I said, number 1, the brain. Number 2, Berlin Conference. Number 3, the colonizers never left. Number 4, the world trade policies. Number 5, the international finance systems. And number 6, the last one, that's where you and I come in, the brain drain. Africa, as we stand today, does not have the capacity Africa needs to build a sustainable Africa. So don't be surprised that as we go into the African Continental Free Trade Area, the people that are going to come in to build the Africa we want, for them, it's going to be the Africa they want. Let's make that clear. It's not going to be people who look like you and I unless we come together. The brain drain out of Africa started with the children of Africa taken out as slaves, followed by the more recent immigrants. The end result is no amount of money put into Africa can give us the healthcare systems we want, because the healthcare workers are not in Africa. No amount of money put into education can give us the educational system we want, because the educators are out of Africa. The same is true in every sector. So how do we build a sustainable Africa if the brain drain is not reversed? Number 6, issue of the root, the brain drain that has left Africa without the capacity Africa needs to build a sustainable Africa for us, by us. Let's understand the issues of the root so we can stop wasting time talking about the issues above the root, which will never change unless the issues of the root have been addressed. So with that in mind, I felt that I needed to put it in a nutshell. I wrote a book to summarize that which ails us, to summarize where we were, how we started, what has been done to us, and where we are today. But more importantly, what we need to do to get ourselves out of the situation that we find ourselves in as Black people. The disrespect of the Black person simply because we're Black is unacceptable, and it has got to come to an end. Africa 101, I urge all of you to get a copy. Go to our africa101.org, africa101.org. Reserve your copy and begin the journey to self-healing and self-discovery.
Thank you very much. I mean, the link has been dropped in the chat, and you all know it when ADDI is here. I think it's sometimes let's just do it for the benefit of those that we know keep joining for the first time. Is www.ouraddi.org, same www.ourafrica101.org. Yes. So I'll pick up this call. Hello.
Yes, good evening, family. Good evening, Dr. Arikana, the other added guest. I do appreciate hearing and seeing you guys today. Dr. Arikana, I've been a follower of the very first time I heard you, and I've been pushing our ADDI ever since. I have shared the link with as many people as I can, and I will absolutely do that. I have a couple concerns. One of them is Dr. Harrison. In speaking, I think you mentioned something.
We barely just don't hear you. All right, now it's better. Go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Harrison, if I may, I heard previously, I'm not sure if I'm correct, but correct me if I'm wrong, that you refer to education and the correcting the brainwash from the uh, university level. But I think the problem is further than that. I think we may have to go back to early childhood to fix the problem because, as Dr. Arikana had mentioned, the 3-year-olds who see themselves as being ugly, then the problem is way further than the university level. That's one issue I want to address. Secondly,
Your line is so bad.
let me see if I can do better.
Yeah, there's a position where you like now.
Okay, is it better now?
Worst.
Is it better now?
Worst. Can you call back? Just call back.
Okay, I'll call back.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's just too bad. Yeah. All right. I don't know why, but yes, it is the way it is. We are almost rounding, or we're rounding up with the show. And all right, he's calling back again. Let's see if it works this time. Hello.
Is it better now?
Better. Go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Harris, let me try this again. Now, in speaking, you said something about the education of the African people or the African students from university level. The problem we have, I think, is beyond that. Based on what Dr. Arikana had mentioned about the young students, 3-year-olds, identifying themselves as being ugly. So our issue is way before they get to university. So if you try to correct the problem then, it's like trying to bend a tree that has already taken shape. So that's one part of it. And secondly, Dr. Arikana, to you, Dr. Kata knows a little of me. And what I have done, I have put my money where my mouth is. And I saw an issue in the Gambia that I am currently working on. Now, one of the challenges there is that citizenship may be a problem because I am prepared to remove myself from the diaspora and go on the continent. Now, what is protection would I have an investment being there without citizenship? Is this something that you and ADDI organization is willing to support people who are prepared to use whatever financial resources they have to help build the African continent, not to come back into the diaspora, but to be there, to live there? What protection do we have as far as citizenship? And I wait for your response. Thank you very much. And I wish you guys all the best. I wish us all the best. Long live Africa, long live African people.
Thank you very much. Thank you, brother. I think we heard it. Professor Harrison, I start with you. You heard the question, or was it a comment or a question? I don't know.
So I heard the comment, and he is right that it's all encompassing. But I am in charge of the higher education sector, so I'll start there and go back to my own approach to teaching. And one of the things I do in some of the classes that I teach is focus on an effort to wake people up and wake the students up to the way they have been conditioned in their education or life before they reach my classroom about the stereotypes and images they have seen about Africa and people of African descent. And I do that throughout the semester. And as the semester goes on, their eyes begin to be opened and they begin to become aware of things that they may not have been aware of before or that they would have missed. But to the caller's point about the fact that this starts at a younger age and that education or re-education in that regard has to start before students get to college. Her Excellency realizes that too. And so, as a part of ADDI, she has created and set aside a primary school education sector as well. And so I'll turn it over to her to speak more about that and her vision with regard to this, because she really is quite a visionary in terms of her holistic understanding of all of the elements that are necessary, not just to decolonize our way of thinking, but to decolonize our approach to development of the African continent. I am not the director of the primary education sector, so I will let her speak to why she created it and her vision for that.
Thank you, Professor. Precisely because we realize that we need to start with this education at the elementary level. And so with that understanding, we also have a sector for primary education. We will be bringing the director for primary education to come and talk about what he plans to do and the programs he intends to roll out. But more importantly, the director for primary education was born in Africa, and so he understands the miseducation of the African. And so, being that he was educated in Africa, but he has since come across to the U.S. and is now teaching in the U.S. School system, he understands both worlds, and he understands where we are going wrong. Where we are going wrong as Black people in Africa, where we are going wrong as Black people in America, and where we need to go, because those issues are now being discussed even in this country, in the United States, where the miseducation needs to be corrected. And so he's qualified, well qualified through experience and of course training as to what changes we need to make if we are going to make the interventions, and the interventions done, not only done the right way, but also done at the right level. And some of it even goes back to us parenting and the parenting skills and the education that we need to be teaching our children at home. Like that particular experiment showed, the kids had not even made it to the teachers, and yet they already had their minds made up through these various subliminal messages around the home. So it's quite a challenge. Yes, the teachers are going to do their best, but we still have to look at the home to say that's where it begins. If we do not deal with it at home as well, by the time the teachers get them, their minds are already made up.
Okay, fine. I think we have come to the end of this edition. We have about 4 minutes to go, and like we said here, this is a long-term a project that we're doing with the ADDI, and particularly as a main not a partner. The Pan-African Daily is on the ADDI. We intend to continue doing it, and we had set a calendar for every Saturday. But unfortunately, this coming Saturday, because of the launching of the AfroWorld TV platform that we started 8 months ago, it will be difficult for us to continue in the series. So for those of you that are already asking, but I think Her Excellency would tell us, like he's saying, the next, when he's coming after that, this Saturday or in the next coming, who is she going to be bringing along with? I already heard about the director of the primary educational sector, or
It's the next weekend that we are coming together. We what we have done with ADDI, so people appreciate what we are trying to do. Level 1 of our uh, outreach and development plan in terms of mobilization was the establishment of the headquarters in Washington, D.C. Level 2 was the establishment of sector leaders as well as chapter leaders. We're currently sitting at 71 chapter leaders, chapters around the world. We're right now, we can comfortably say we are in every corner of the globe. So that level 2 is done. We've established our sector leaders and our chapter leaders. Of course, the chapter leaders, we're going to continue to build on those chapter leaders. Level 3, we are now saying those leaders need help. So now we are going to be having sub-chapter leaders along this the chapter track, and then the sector track. We're now going to be looking for co-directors or regional directors that are going to support the current directors. Because, for example, Brother Benson alone, trade and investment, that is huge. He's going to need all the help that he can get. So level 3 of our development is now going to be looking for the help that Professor Harrison needs. So we're now going to be looking for regional directors to support her work. We're going to look for regional directors, so somebody to represent Canada, somebody to represent Europe, somebody to represent the UK, somebody to represent Australia, China. All will be feeding to Professor Harrison. All will be feeding information to Brother Benson. So level 3 is going to be going after those people who can continue to support us, and level 4 is now going into the larger metropolitan areas. So let's say we have a leader for California. We now go into, we need to find somebody for San Francisco. San Francisco alone, you're looking at over 1 million people. Somebody leading Los Angeles. Los Angeles alone is over 2 million people. San Diego, California. So depending on the major population densities within the state or within the country, then we're also going to go into sub-state and sub-country leadership. So that would be level 5. So we go from the headquarters to sectors and chapters, and then within, which is international. These are international leaders. And then from the international, we're going to get them the help that is going to be regionally. Right now, we are sitting at about 30-something regions that we have divided. So they will get people in to lead each region in order to support their work. And then regionally within regions, we're going to break ourselves down into country leaders. So there will be countries within a region, or states within a country, like in the United States. We'll find state or country leaders. And then within the states or countries, we're going to then get the sub-state or sub-country leaders, which will be leaders within the major metropolitan areas. So we're moving in a way nicely mapped out in terms of making sure that we have good representation throughout the world, to make sure that the children of Africa in the diaspora, we can all have a voice, and we're reaching each other at the grassroots level. I can't remember what the question was, where I started. What was the question, Susan? Oh, in terms of also, yes. So for next week, who is coming next week? Next week, we're going to have the sub-chapter leader. I think that's what it was. The regional leader for the Caribbean. He's actually a medical doctor, Dr. Whitaker. He's actually African-American, but he now lives in the Virgin Islands and is very well connected in the Caribbean community. And he is going to be responsible for mobilizing medical doctors in the Caribbean. He's going to be here with you. We are also going to be having the director for agriculture, Professor Lindley, out of Switzerland. She was born in Malawi, now resides in Switzerland. She's going to be talking about agriculture, a very, very important sector for ADDI. We understand that most African countries, if we handle agriculture properly, can have their economies driven through agriculture. We can convert African countries into agriculture-driven economies. And so Professor Lindley is very passionate about agriculture. She will be with us. So it'll be her together with Dr. Whitaker from the Virgin Islands.
Yes. All right. So that is it with the conversation led by the A team. I'm thanking all of us that have made it a duty to always be here on time. And even from the feedbacks and the comments, it's a very positive conversation that we had here today. And everybody was like, wow, every sector was touched. And I keep seeing everyone like, oh, wow, Professor Harrison, so beautiful, so cute, and yes, as usual, we want to thank all of you and the support that all of us are putting out there, relentless energy. At least it's also a point of duty for us to congratulate and thank ourselves and energize ourselves and back up each other. So yes, thank you for all those that are taking this responsibility. It is volunteering. And for you that are watching, you have all heard the list of the open positions that we still need, and we need a lot of volunteers. A lot of people also reach out to the Pan-African Daily TV on how they can be a volunteer, and we've always been sharing the link, even in other conversations, to redirect that source to the ADDI. But if you are here and just thinking, yes, I could be a chapter or a country or this, and I could just bring something. It's not just only about raising the money, but we need the workers also to put that money in place. So if you are passionate and saying, yes, this is my time, I want to be in that legacy, remember, just being that part, just putting your name, just signing in. Remember, just owning the copy of that is too much relevance for you. I mean, we've passed that level of just existing. Now we are giving back. Now we're giving back. No life is a life without a continuity. And so we African people have to take that responsibility, like Her Excellency and her team has been telling us, at least we have a voice now. So there's just not going to be any excuse again for us Black people or melanated people. George Floyd already carried that cross and said, yes, I would go. So we all need to follow. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Brother Benson. I want to thank you, Professor Harrison. And of course, hey, Queen Mother, who else again? How much more can we even thank you? We just need to thank you by doing what you're doing. Be our inspirator, be our energy, and we would not let you down. Yes, we will stand for you at any time. We will just do what a real mother asks us to do. So thank you so very much for being here. And we thank you and we see ourselves, yes, coming up again on the ADDI, on the Pan African Daily TV. Also, yes, in that process. Thank you and good night to you from the ADDI team. So, and for all of us, thank you again. I know it's a beautiful Saturday. A lot of people want to go. A lot of people want to go and hang out. The doors, the lockdown is currently, the lockdown is currently opening up in a lot of. Oh, wait. Was there something? They're gone. Oh, I'm sorry, because I'm seeing a comment here as if maybe somebody wanted a last word. I'm so sorry about that. I saw it late. Yes, but they're always going to be here with us. And yes, if you have any question, please drop it inbox. Those of you that were struggling to call in, it wasn't possible because you're using the direct lines and it wasn't possible anyway. But if you have a question that you still want us to reach out to the ADDI, please just drop it in the comment. I saw some already in the WhatsApp. I will redirect it if it is for Her Excellency or for Professor Harrison or for Dr. Benson. Please just indicate and they would get back to you. So thank you so very much. Enjoy your weekend and look up to upcoming programs, particularly the big launch of the AfroWorld, the TV platform. There's just going to be a lot that will be happening. Yes, I cannot really promise that we're going to come up with this spacious Sunday tomorrow, but just watch out for our flyers, which will be dropping in anytime. And if we'll be live, you would know. Apart from that, then we will start up the session with the week for the launching, for the official launching. We're going to be putting a lot of information out there. And remember, the AfroWorld, the TV, a lot of people still just don't understand what is it. And these are questions that we'll be talking about. What is actually the AfroWorld, the TV? It's going to be amazing to understand. This is not a social media platform where we just connect in. This is more than just a social media platform. It's more about e-commerce. How do we promote the young, talented Africans that are innovative and smart? How do we showcase their work, not just their work, their business initiatives? How do we buy? How do we reach out to them? And so all this information is what we are creating to give the new face of the hardworking African. Those whose story would never be seen on BBC, those whose engagement and products would never be found even in the on the shelters, those who will never be heard of us or heard of. Those are the ones that the AfroWorld TV is targeting. And so we have a lot of reporters that just want to put content about Africa. They're so passionate to tell the stories of Africa, but they don't have a blocking. They don't have a platform like that. That's the e-commerce that we're talking about, this platform. There are a lot of us doing a lot of things on the continent particularly. So we want to present a platform where Africans on the continent in the diaspora can intertrade, but particularly focusing on that least privileged, the less privileged and less opportune African young men and women that are feeding their families and putting food on the table every day. These ones that we don't talk about when we're talking about Africa Continental Free Trade Area. These are not the ones that we'll hear about their names anyway. Yes, but these are the ones that the AfroWorld.tv is looking to connect with them, to showcase their work, to buy with them, and also to inform other Africans on the continent. You can be sitting somewhere just next to you where a brother and sister is selling something and you don't know about it. So all this is the duty of the AfroWorld.tv, the platform that is connecting the less opportune and the less privileged and the last of Africans that will not be hurt anywhere. That is the platform. So it's not about just social media. No, we're not just going to be there to post pictures and do any other thing. No, we're going to be there to make money for the less privilege and the opportunity. We're going to give them that global outreach. So it doesn't matter what you're doing in your small corner. We've had a lot of talent out there. I've met young, incredible women from Cameroon, from Tanzania, from doing so much, just recycling the waste and making space beautiful. All these ones, no one will give them a platform on all these major medias, but the Pan African Daily TV will showcase them, and the AfroWorld.tv will sell their products to the world. So we are looking forward to connect on this mega launch that is coming up next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we're going to be showcasing all this. And the users that we're already having on these platforms now would be coming to share their experience with you. What are the products there? How you can make money on AfroWorld.tv, how you can create even an account, and how you can create a blog, and so many, many, many things that is not available anyway. So we see ourselves, but watch out for our program for a spacious Sunday. And the whole week is going to be the event of the mega launch of AfroWorld.tv. Thank you so very much. And I wish you a safe stay out there. Enjoy your weekend and be careful. Take care of yourself. Remember one thing: love Africa the way they love you, the way motherland loves you, but love yourself and love one another. Thank you, and peace be with you. Bye bye.